The night sky over Panama had never seemed so alive. Astronomers posted updates that the interstellar object 3I Atlas was now clearly visible through high-powered telescopes. Its trajectory brought it closer to Earth's orbit with every passing hour. And yet, it wasn't just scientists who were watching. It was Kin. In his final live stream, his voice was hoarse, his eyes bloodshot, but his determination burned through every word. I need you to understand. This isn't just a rock. It isn't just some strange chemical reaction. It's part of something bigger, something that's already here, something that's been waiting for this moment. He turned his phone toward the safe. Except now, the safe was no longer sealed. The entity had forced its way out. Across the floor, black filaments crawled outward like veins across tile, splitting into intricate branching patterns. Some reached upward, attaching to walls and ceiling, spreading like living circuitry. And that glow, it no longer flickered faintly. It pulsed in rhythmic surges, brighter, faster, almost in sync with a heartbeat. But it wasn't Kin's heartbeat. It was something else's. The sound followed. That low vibration had grown louder, deeper, resonating through the walls. Objects rattled on shelves. The light bulb above Kin's head flickered as if straining against invisible waves. His viewers heard it too, phones buzzing faintly with interference, signals cracking in and out. Some claimed they felt dizzy just listening, as though the sound pressed against their skulls from the inside. Kin whispered something that chilled his audience. It's not alone anymore. It knows Atlas is close. Then, as if summoned by his words, the tendrils froze, every filament trembling in perfect unison. For several long seconds, silence filled the air, an oppressive, suffocating silence. And then came the light. Not from the entity, not from the room, from the sky. Viewers who lived in Panama confirmed it. A streak of fire cut across the heavens, splitting the darkness as another fragment descended through the atmosphere. But unlike ordinary meteors, this one did not vanish in a blink. It slowed. It burned with unnatural precision, breaking apart in symmetrical shards that trailed luminous green and violet flames. The chat exploded. It's happening! Another one is coming down. This isn't random, it's controlled. Kin turned the camera back to the floor, and that's when everyone realized what was happening. The entity was responding. Its glow synchronized with the object in the sky. The filaments pulsed brighter, faster, like a beacon answering a call. And then, for the first time, the watchers were certain it was intelligent. Because it spoke. Not in words any human could recognize, but in sound. The hum transformed into a layered chorus, tones rising and falling like a mechanical chant. Some viewers swore they heard patterns in it, syllables, even language. Others claimed their phones displayed strange glitches, random symbols, shapes, flashes of binary code across their screens. Kin stumbled backward, clutching his head. His nose bled. He screamed, "It's in my mind. It's showing me things." Through his fractured voice he described visions. Great black ships hidden among the stars, drifting closer. A network of tendrils not just on his floor, but stretching across entire planets, spreading, consuming, repurposing. And the worst vision of all, Earth itself, wrapped in the same black lattice, glowing with alien veins. He fell to his knees, gasping. It's not here to talk. It's here to transform us. The live stream cut abruptly to static. For hours afterward, speculation consumed the internet. Some believed Kin was dead. Others argued he had been silenced, removed before the truth could spread further. But fragments of his final video remained, re-uploaded endlessly across platforms. Millions watched, analyzed, debated. Theories spread like wildfire. Was Atlas an alien ark? A colony ship? A weapon? Were the meteorites seeds meant to prepare Earth for something larger? The silence from officials only deepened suspicion. No statements, no confirmation, only rumors of military activity near Kin's last known location. Eyewitnesses claimed they saw convoys moving through the night, helicopters circling overhead, even strange lights streaking into the forest where Kin once lived. But the most chilling detail came not from officials, but from Kin's own followers. A group of them, self-proclaimed truth-seekers, claimed to have gone to Panama, searching for him. They found his house. The door was torn open, the interior wrecked. But the safe was gone. The entity was gone, and Kin himself had vanished without a trace. The only evidence left behind was a single, smeared message scrawled on the wall in black, sticky substance. "We watch." No one knew if Kin wrote it, or if something else did. Outro. Haunting closure. The story of Kin and the alien entity remains unsolved. Some say he was silenced, his discovery buried forever. Others believe he became part of it, consumed by the very life he tried to contain. And yet, one truth lingers. Atlas still drifts closer, still approaches Earth, still waits. And if what Kin revealed is true, then humanity hasn't just witnessed a discovery. We've received a warning that we are not alone, a warning that something is coming. And when it arrives, it may already know who's been watching. So tonight, when you look at the stars, remember this. Maybe the stars are looking back. Have you ever stumbled across a story so strange, so unsettling, that you couldn't decide whether it was the greatest discovery of our time, or the opening chapter of a nightmare we were never meant to witness? Tonight, we are diving into one such story. A story that begins in the quiet landscapes of Panama, but stretches out into the cold, infinite reaches of space. This is not just another tale of a rock falling from the sky. This is a story of a meteorite that cracked open and revealed something alive, something not of this earth. And the man who found it, known online only as Kin, has now issued a warning so chilling, so urgent, that it has left his followers in shock and disbelief. When Kin first uploaded his videos, they seemed like nothing more than the curiosity of a TikTok creator. A strange object fallen from the sky, small enough to carry yet heavy, scarred and charred by its journey through the atmosphere. But as the camera zoomed in on its cracked surface, viewers saw something that no ordinary meteorite should contain. A thick, tar-like black substance, glistening under the light. It didn't just ooze or drip, it moved, slowly, purposefully, as if aware of being watched. At first, many thought it was a hoax, clever editing, a prank, maybe even a simple chemical reaction. But Kin didn't stop at one video. He kept filming. Each clip showed more unsettling behavior. The black substance stretched thin, then recoiled. It divided into strands that appeared to test the air. It clung to surfaces, then detached as if exploring its environment. In one moment that shook his audience, the substance reacted directly to the light from his phone, shrinking back as though it could see or feel the illumination. And then, the whispers began. Kin claimed that people had reached out to him, not just viewers, but officials. Anonymous voices calling his phone, warning him to stop. People who refused to identify themselves but who knew far too much about his location and his discovery. They told him what he had found was dangerous. They told him it wasn't just a rock, not just a meteorite. They told him it had to be contained, controlled, kept away from the public eye. But Kin did what few would dare to do. He didn't listen. He doubled down. He locked the substance inside a reinforced safe and began posting more videos. He said he wasn't about to give up the most important discovery of his life to shadowy figures he couldn't even name. His followers grew. The mystery spread. News outlets began to pick up fragments of the story, though many dismissed it as viral fiction. Still, those who watched his videos closely knew there was something about the movement of the substance, the strange energy surrounding it, that couldn't be so easily explained away. Then came the update that changed everything. Kin appeared on camera looking shaken, his voice low, his words careful. He said he had received a message, an official one. He would not say who it was from, but he implied it carried weight, authority, and danger. The message ordered him to stop posting immediately, to hand over samples of the entity, to prepare for a debriefing. And, most chilling of all, it claimed that what he had found was connected to something much larger, something cosmic, something called 3I Atlas. For those unfamiliar, 3I Atlas is not just a comet or a passing rock. It is an interstellar object, one of the very few ever recorded to have entered our solar system from beyond the stars. Scientists already considered its arrival a historic event. But if Kin's meteorite was truly linked to it, then the implications were staggering. This wasn't a random chunk of space debris. It wasn't just a piece of stone and metal. It could be a fragment, a probe, a vessel carrying something deliberately. And that something was now in Kin's possession. The message went further, warning him that the entity inside the meteorite could not be allowed to fall into the wrong hands, that it could be weaponized, that his refusal to comply would place him, and those around him, in danger. It even instructed him to report to the United States Embassy, where arrangements would be made for his transport to America. They wanted not only the meteorite but the names of scientists he had contacted, the exact locations he had visited, and every shred of data he had collected. But Kin, trembling as he spoke, made one thing clear. He did not feel safe. He felt hunted. And yet, he felt an obligation to keep talking, to keep posting. Because whatever this was, it was too important to disappear into silence, too important to be locked away forever. As he uploaded that chilling update, speculation erupted across the internet. Some argued that this was proof of a government cover-up already in motion. Others believed Kin had stumbled into something beyond his control, an alien entity whose arrival had been planned long before his camera ever turned on. His safe, his small, reinforced box, became the center of endless debate. Was it truly strong enough to hold what he had found? Could it contain something that might not obey the laws of physics or biology as we understand them? Viewers noticed details that only added to the fear. The black substance seemed to grow, little by little, between videos. It expanded along the edges of the container, as if testing its prison. Some said it was learning. Others said it was waiting. The way it stretched out, recoiled, then spread again. It gave the impression of intelligence, of curiosity. Some even claimed to see faint glimmers within it, tiny sparks of light like neurons firing in a brain. And as if that wasn't enough, Kin revealed something else. Strange occurrences around his home. Lights flickering with no explanation. Electronics shorting out. A low hum in the dead of night, so deep it rattled the walls. Once, he said, he woke to find the safe warm to the touch, almost pulsing. He swore he could hear faint vibrations from within, as though the entity were alive, restless and aware of its confinement. Theories multiplied. Was this some form of alien life, carried across interstellar distances in the belly of a meteorite? Was it a machine, a piece of self-replicating technology designed to adapt to its environment? Or was it something far older, far stranger, an intelligence that uses matter itself as a vessel? The timing, Kin's followers noted, was impossible to ignore. The very moment that 3I Atlas entered the inner solar system, the very moment astronomers across the globe were pointing their telescopes at this wandering visitor from the stars, was the moment a fragment fell to Earth carrying something alive. Was this coincidence, or was it deliberate? A signal, a probe, a scout sent ahead to prepare the way. And yet, despite the pressure, despite the warnings, Kin's camera stayed on. His face pale, his eyes darting as though he feared being watched, he continued to whisper updates. He told his viewers he couldn't stop, that too many people had already seen what he had seen. That silence would be a betrayal not just to himself, but to humanity. But his words carried an edge of terror. Because as much as Kin wanted to keep talking, he knew forces larger than himself were closing in. He admitted that he didn't know how much longer he could resist, that one day soon he might vanish from the internet altogether. His safe might be taken, his discovery buried. And the only evidence that any of this had ever happened would be the fragments of videos already circulating online. And so, his warning became clear. His message was simple. If he disappeared, if his posts stopped without explanation, then the truth had been silenced, and the entity inside the meteorite would have been taken somewhere we might never see again. This is where the story begins to transform, from a strange viral mystery into something far more dangerous. Because if Kin is right, if this black, living substance is not just alive, but connected to an interstellar object now passing through our system, then we are no longer talking about speculation. We are no longer talking about curiosity. We are talking about contact. We are talking about a visitor not just from another world, but from another star. And Kin, an ordinary man from Panama, has found himself standing at the center of it all. Kin could not sleep. Every sound outside his window became a threat. Every flicker of movement in the shadows a reminder that he was no longer just a man with a discovery. He was a man being watched. His followers saw it too. In his late-night live streams, his eyes darted to the corners of the room, his voice dropping into whispers as if he knew unseen ears were listening. The entity inside the safe was restless, he said. He could hear it scraping faintly against the reinforced walls, like fingernails dragging across metal. Sometimes, he swore, it pulsed in rhythm with his own heartbeat. But more disturbing than the sounds was the growth. The black substance was no longer a formless mass. It was branching, forming structures, thin tendrils that seemed to weave patterns, deliberate and precise, like the sketches of some alien script. One video showed the material stretching into lines across the surface of the safe, retracting, then reforming into shapes eerily reminiscent of fractals seen in nature. His followers froze the frames, analyzed them, argued endlessly online. Were these patterns a language, a message, or simply the instinctual growth of something alive and incomprehensible? It was at this point that the warnings escalated. Kin revealed another anonymous message. You are dealing with something that cannot be allowed to fall into public hands. Stop now, or you will be silenced. The tone was sharper, colder, as though patience had run out. Strangely, Kin didn't stop. Perhaps fear pushed him forward. Perhaps the pressure of a global audience made silence impossible. Or perhaps he had already realized what so many were whispering. Once you touch something from beyond the stars, there is no going back. In the weeks that followed, scientists began breaking their silence. Astronomers noted that 3I Atlas, the interstellar traveler, had displayed unusual behavior during its approach. Some reported fragmentation, pieces breaking off, smaller objects scattered ahead of its path. Could Kin's meteorite be one of them? If so, it meant the black entity was not unique. There could be more, scattered across oceans, deserts, jungles, quietly waiting to be found. The theory that gained the most traction was not new, but its implications were terrifying. Panspermia. The idea that life does not originate on every world independently, but is carried across the galaxy on cosmic seeds. Meteors, comets, or deliberate vessels could carry spores, cells, or entire organisms between stars. Some researchers argued that Atlas itself might be such a carrier, a wandering ark of material. But others pushed even further. What if it wasn't natural at all? What if it was built? The branching growth patterns, the apparent intelligence, the way it avoided light, the way it seemed to respond to Kin's presence. These were not random behaviors, they were purposeful. To some, the black entity was no accident of biology. It was technology, living technology, a self-replicating probe designed not just to survive, but to adapt, to learn, and perhaps to colonize. The idea sent shivers through Kin's followers. If true, it meant he was not protecting a piece of alien life. He was guarding a machine that could be far older than humanity, sent across unimaginable distances to do what humans had only begun to dream of, spread across the stars. But if that was the case, then why now? Why here? Why Panama? Speculation turned darker still. Some suggested that Atlas was not simply passing through our solar system, but was targeting it, sending scouts like Kin's meteorite ahead of its arrival. If so, Earth might not be the first world seeded in this way. Others argued it could be testing, scouting for resources, for vulnerabilities. The black substance might be less an ambassador and more a spy. For Kin, the weight of these theories was crushing. He admitted in one stream that he no longer felt safe in his own skin. He dreamed of the entity at night, its black tendrils wrapping around his arms, his chest, slipping into his mouth and nose, becoming part of him. Sometimes he woke with his heart pounding, swearing he could still feel it. He confessed that when he stood too close to the safe, he could hear something faint, almost below the level of sound, like whispers vibrating in the bones of his skull. Still, he refused to hand it over. Not to officials, not to the anonymous voices. To his audience, he insisted, "If this is real, if this is what I think it is, then it belongs to all of us. Not just to governments, not just to those who want to weaponize it." That statement alone may have sealed his fate. Because from that moment forward, it was no longer just anonymous warnings he faced. It was direct pressure. He described being approached by men in suits, their accents unfamiliar, their demeanor threatening. They demanded the safe. He refused. He claimed his home was searched. Drones hovered overhead at night. Neighbors reported strangers knocking on their doors, asking about him. The pressure grew unbearable, but so too did the fascination. Millions now hung on every update, dissecting every new video. Some swore they could see the entity moving faster now, as if reacting to the attention, as if it somehow knew the world was watching. Others noticed discoloration spreading across the safe's surface, as if the material inside was corroding its prison. And then, one night, Kin whispered something that chilled his followers to their core. "I don't think it's trapped anymore." He explained that when he opened the safe, he saw not just the black mass but fine tendrils reaching into the cracks of the metal, burrowing like roots. They had spread further than before, delicate but unrelenting, as though seeking escape. He shut the door and sealed it, but the image haunted those who watched. If the entity was breaking free, then time was running out. Not just for Kin, for all of us. Theories spiraled wildly. Some claimed it was a harbinger, a messenger of contact. Others feared it was a contagion, the first stage of an invasion. A handful dared to believe it was a gift, a technology beyond our comprehension, waiting to be unlocked. But beneath all the noise, one truth pressed down like a weight on the chest. Whatever it was, it had come from Atlas. And Atlas was still approaching. As the interstellar body drew nearer, visible even to amateur telescopes, astronomers warned that its true size remained uncertain. What we saw may have only been a fragment, a shard of something vaster hidden in the void. If Kin's meteorite was a piece of it, then humanity might be standing on the threshold of an encounter far larger than anything it was prepared for. And Kin, isolated, paranoid, clinging to the safe that rattled faintly in the night, was at the very heart of it. News outlets finally began to take notice. What had started as fringe speculation online was now bleeding into mainstream headlines. Panama, man claims alien life in meteorite. Strange entity linked to interstellar object Atlas. Cover-up or contact? Kin's face appeared on television screens, his videos replayed with grim commentary. Scientists debated in hushed tones on news panels, but most refused to speak directly about the entity. Instead, they called for caution, for patience, for investigation. Yet behind their carefully chosen words, the fear was evident. Something had been discovered that exceeded their ability to explain. Kin, meanwhile, was unraveling. His followers noticed it first, his eyes ringed with sleeplessness, his hands trembling in every new video. He confessed that he no longer trusted anyone. His phone, he claimed, was being tapped. His internet monitored. He said sometimes when he left his house, cars followed him at a distance. And yet, he still recorded, still spoke, because the alternative, the silence his anonymous contacts demanded, felt like surrender. But what truly disturbed his audience wasn't his paranoia. It was the entity itself. The latest video showed something no one could ignore. Inside the safe, the black material had begun to emit a faint glow. Not bright, not constant, just pulses, like the heartbeat of something alive. The camera lingered as Kin held his phone close, capturing the faint shimmer of bluish light threading through the mass like veins. For the first time, his audience heard it too. A low vibration, not quite a sound, more a hum that set the air trembling. Theories exploded online. Some said it was a bioluminescent organism adapting to its prison. Others swore it was a power source activating, a sign of machinery waking up. But one theory, whispered in darker corners of the web, gained traction. The glow wasn't random. It was a signal. If true, then the entity wasn't just alive. It was communicating. Communicating with what? That was the question that froze blood in veins. Was it reaching out to Atlas, the interstellar wanderer drawing closer every night? Or was it connecting to something already here, hidden, waiting for its arrival? Kin himself admitted he had felt strange since the glow appeared. He said his dreams were no longer just his own. He saw visions, stars spinning in impossible patterns, vast, dark shapes moving between galaxies, a cold, metallic landscape stretching endlessly under a black sun. Sometimes he awoke with words in his head he did not understand, phrases that slipped away before he could record them. Once, he claimed, he awoke standing before the safe, his hand on the door as though sleepwalking. He asked his viewers a chilling question. What if it's inside my mind already? From that point on, the warnings grew more intense. His anonymous contacts now identified themselves vaguely as official representatives. They told him bluntly that his refusal to comply endangered not just himself, but everyone. They insisted the entity must be secured. They warned that if he did not deliver it voluntarily, others would take it by force. For his audience, this was confirmation of what they had feared all along, a cover-up. Countless comments urged him to resist, to hold the line, to keep filming no matter what. His followers became fanatical in their support, declaring him a whistleblower, a prophet of first contact. Yet others began to worry. What if keeping it secret was reckless? What if the entity was dangerous, not just for him, but for everyone near him? That fear was justified, because soon after, Kin uploaded footage that shocked even his most loyal supporters. The safe was open. Inside, the black material was no longer contained. It had spread across the interior, climbing the walls of the safe like roots of a tree, pushing against the seams of the door. Thin tendrils slithered outward, searching, exploring, curling into the open air. Kin's voice shook as he filmed. I didn't open this. I swear. I found it like this. The tendrils writhed in slow motion, recoiling from the light of his flashlight but stretching toward his hand when he brought it close. The pulsing glow within them intensified. For a brief moment, the camera caught something impossible, the tendrils arranging themselves into a pattern, glowing lines forming a shape that looked disturbingly like an eye. And then, as if aware of being filmed, the glow faded. The video ended abruptly, cutting to black. Panic surged across the internet. Was it alive? Intelligent? Watching? Some viewers claimed to hear whispers in the audio when the glow appeared, voices layered beneath the hum, speaking in a language no one could recognize. Others enhanced the footage, swearing that the eye shape was deliberate, a message to humanity. We see you. Governments could no longer ignore the story. Rumors circulated that officials were on their way to Kin's home, that a team had already been dispatched, that the safe, and whatever was inside it, would be confiscated before dawn. But Kin was one step ahead. He told his audience he had moved the entity again, hidden it somewhere no one could find. He would not reveal where. His reasoning was simple. If they take it, you'll never hear of it again. But if I keep it safe, at least you'll know the truth. This declaration turned him into a fugitive in the eyes of some, a hero in the eyes of others. But as he spoke, one detail unsettled viewers most. The way his voice wavered when he said, "Keep it safe." It was as if he no longer believed the entity could be controlled at all. And then came the update that made millions shiver. The entity is growing faster now. I don't think it's just surviving. I think it's waiting. Waiting for what? For Atlas? For something else in the night sky? For the right moment to break free entirely? No one could answer. But one thing was certain. The world was watching, and time was running out.